Hello guys, welcome to the Trading Parrot. As I'm recording, I'm seeing Sui producing the largest ever green candle in history. It's at the moment testing that resistance around $4. This is about to turn into an 80% weekly candle, and in this video we're gonna look into the healthiness of this move, what sort of correction we should be expecting. We'll look into some news to try to explain why now. Is this produced by liquidation pools? Where are those liquidation pools currently located to understand whether we're gonna run out of that motivation to continue rallying like this? I'm also going to compare the performance of Sui against Solana to answer the question, are we in the perfect place to take profits from Sui to pass them back into Solana, or should we chew hard and expect Sui to continue outperforming Solana into the next level of this breakout? Guys, if you like this type of content, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. Hit the notification bell to get notified every time I put out one of these videos. Can we get 1,000 likes in this video? If you're a fan of Sui, make sure that you hit the like. If you are not, write down below which coin would you like me to do a full in-depth analysis in a video like this. And guys, if you want to trade Sui or any altcoin including Bitcoin, consider opening an account with the link in the description for Bluffing. This is a non-KYC exchange and is currently offering with my link 10% cashback. Well, as you can see at the moment, Sui is having a breakout in terms of interest, social metrics from Google Trends. After peaking early November, it's been in decline in terms of people searching on social networks. And from a level of around 15, we are now pushing well into 36. Of course, this is unsettled candle, but it could be the beginning of something big once again. I wanted to check what's going on in terms of news. And there's multiple sources of news already covering the 70% plus rally that we're seeing. And I think it's all to do with DeFi growth and strategic partnerships at the moment. The total value locked, which is a big metric used for DeFi to cherry pick the best of the best, increased 38%, reaching approximately $1.65 billion. There's been a surge in volume, an increase of 177%. There's also the introduction of Grayscale Sui Trust launch, providing exposure to institutions to Sui, and a bunch of partnerships as well. There's a collaboration with Pokemon, some analysts of course contributing to the bullishness with their very bullish expectations. In this case, we're talking about $10 to $11. We'll see about that just in a moment. Sui outperforms major cryptocurrencies during the consolidation as well. Remember when we were talking about focusing when everything is going down, what is the most resilient assets? We'll look into the technicals in just a moment. There's been significant gains on the tokens on the ecosystem of Sui as well, starting with Deep, Set US, and Wall. There's also some cooperations with MasterCard, so big things are coming into the Sui ecosystem. But before we get trapped into all this news that most of the time tends to give you nothing apart from a big trap, let's look at the price action, what's going on in here. So yeah, this is definitely the largest green candle weekly so far in progress. Of course, we haven't yet defined what is going to be the closing price on Sunday. If you ask me, the most bullish thing that we could do is if we can close beyond 3.8. But to be honest, if we just see a rejection in here into the order block of 3.4, and then we consolidate and we try again to break beyond the $4, also psychological level, that should be fine. Here we have another green candle. For example, this was a 76%, 1.36 points in a single week. The one we have in here is 168. So definitely the largest one so far, from low to high. The things that we need to be very, very careful in here is, of course, not entering in the middle of this weekly candle on a weekly setup. Of course, you can swing trade it, scalp it, as long as you're managing your risk, which I think it must be really, really tough risk. Remember that Bitcoin was producing on the weekly a very similar pattern, right? We have this line in the sand that defines on Bitcoin whether we are reclaiming the full bullish range on the weekly, which is this second half on the top, versus a rejection and getting the perfect dead cat bounce in here. Of course, we don't want that to happen. That's definitely gonna drag Sui completely into the oblivious. And you can see how Sui and some other coins like Kaspa as well are mimicking what Bitcoin is doing, which is to challenge that line in the sand right there in the middle. And I suspect that if Bitcoin breaks that level and it doesn't see the pullback that I just talked about in the previous video, then Kaspa and Sui can easily reclaim those levels that are equivalent at the same time. If you missed this rally, if you didn't consider accumulating in the areas that we were talking about accumulation, remember we say conservatively, let's enter at these levels of accumulation. This is a very significant one because it bounced off the $2, which is psychological. It was the previous resistance of March 2024. We have higher highs and higher lows. Everything looks beautiful for the price of Sui to curve in here and to start making some moves to the upside. Of course, I was not expecting to get such a massive 80% weekly candle in here. I would have been just happy with a small breakout. That indeed will make me a lot more bullish to enter in a long. This candle that moved already 80%, entering right here, has a very small chance of not wrecking you out. That is also because we lost the support on the weekly, and we have been doing in the context of a revenge rally. You can see in here there is the breakout, but from below the support, coming back into that RSI of 52, and we have completely broken beyond that level. One of the things that was standing out in this setup were how similar there were these two waves in here. And that's why we were saying, watch out for this area, because if this plays out in a very similar way to this one, being a double bottom, from the time we confirmed the double bottom, which is more or less in this green candle in here, we had an 800% upside. And that's pretty much what happened. We even measured the length of this and say that we are, if not at the right bottom, we are very close to a reversal to the upside on Sui. We also say that the delta of longs versus shorts was precisely at the same level where we started having the rally in August 2024. That is the beginning of this rally of 1000%, and longs were precisely at that point in terms of ratio against the shorts. So at the moment, my concern is Bitcoin being able to cross the 94K, because that's equivalent to this level, and Sui, all it did was, hey, by the way, Bitcoin is back to bullish, Sui should be a great resilient play, and all traders enter in one go and went to play catch up with what Bitcoin has already done. In terms of liquidation, what is currently attracting Sui? I will say there is not necessarily a lot of liquidation pools that are the incentive at the moment. We have very small pools in this area. This was just a game of catching up with Bitcoin. We left on the table the 1.5. If this doesn't fully reverse, because Bitcoin seeing a rejection of 94, we could say that that 1.5 is only reserved for the bear market for Sui. Next levels of liquidation that are substantial to the upside, if we were to continue with this, challenge that resistance together with Bitcoin breaking beyond 94 and holding that level. Remember that Bitcoin can go even into 95, 96, where I'm looking for a liquidity hunt, potentially giving me a setup for a short. So that can also bring Sui into 4.3 and 4.5, still then retracing back below that resistance and staying below the $4 if Bitcoin plays out in a similar way. Liquidations at the top, we have heavy liquidity starting from $5.3 into $5.8. On the 3 months here on CoinGlass, we can see that we have taken almost everything apart from the $4.2. Unfortunately, 3 months is not going to show us much more. So let's go into Sui against Solana. Here is where we're going to discuss the potential for this situation being the perfect take profit area to rotate back into Solana. But careful with this one. Guys, if you want to trade Sui or Solana with a free position of $500, I'm currently running this position airdrop on Bybit. All you have to do is open the link in the description for Bybit and hit register to claim. They're going to give you $500 to trade, and you can keep all the profits from that. That can be a short or a long. So here's the situation when we look at the chart of Sui versus Solana. I'm doing the ratio in here. I know that it's been listed Sui against Solana, but I did this a long time ago when it wasn't available. You can do it like this, dividing one by the other. And on the lower end, I have the RSI with the 3 weekly breakouts that we have had so far on Sui in this bull rally. You can see in here, the first one was on December 2023. That gave a rally of 142%. That is a rally of Sui against Solana. So that means that even if both assets are going up, Sui outperformed Solana 142% during that period. I flagged all the areas where we get a breakout, and we went, and at the tops we can see the breakdowns from the trend lines. In this case, it's a trend line that was supposed to be support, but we broke down. At that point, we're talking about areas of rotating into Solana. So this area in here, the breakout was a great area to be in Sui up until we get at the top of the range at 164. Then we rotate into Sol, we go back to the bottom of the range, we flip back into Sui, we rally to the top. That was again 164, the same range that we flagged months ago when we did the video. And something interesting has happened to Sui in this area, because it didn't get stopped this time at this level of 164. That time we try once again, and on the third time we managed to establish a new range. That range was defined by the support of July 2023, very important and critical level. That is not just holding the price now at 250, but also it caused a massive sell-off from 250 back into the previous range, which we have reclaimed twice now, that level of 160. So what we are seeing in this week is a full cross from one end of the range into completely the opposite. So basically from 160 to 250 in a single week, that usually takes at least 2 to 3 weeks. So in very short, we are facing resistance with Sui. If this candle cannot manage to break that resistance of 250 against Solana, this could be the perfect timing to rotate Sui back into Solana, because you will be 36.6% better off holding Solana at that level of resistance. But here's the trick. If Sui manages to break beyond 250 and stay there on the weekly basis, the rally could extend all the way to 464, and that is an additional 86% valuation against Solana. That means that you're better off holding Sui in that case. And I think the decision point is high likely gonna be Bitcoin. Bitcoin breaking out beyond 94K, holding there, is gonna give that reassurance that Sui is a better trade relative to Solana and to even Ethereum, because it's higher risk, higher volatility, less history. It's kind of the new kid in town, the new thing. So if we remain risk on, I'm pretty sure that Sui can reach that target of 462 and allow this breakout to close on Sunday like this. One indication on Sunday that we are on the wrong side of the trade by holding Sui is if this weekly candle that has managed to move all the way from the bottom, the red line, into the breakout zone, is if it retraces and closes the week below 57. In that case, that is telling us, nope, you're back below resistance. And that increases the risks of that continuation into the top of the range against Solana. Notice the similarities of the breakouts that we have been having against Solana. Pretty cool. It's also very cool how this is perfectly respecting layer by layer. First, the double bottom. We're talking about this double bottom in here that has a target to get into 280. We haven't done that yet. And then if this week we manage to close at that 250, even if it's just 250 without a breakout, we are forming a cap and handle. That cap and handle has a huge target from here all the way to 458. The 458 is the order block that sent Sui into a horrible sell-off, depreciating against Solana almost 90%. So it's definitely an area that must be really loaded with liquidity. Anyways, whatever you do, whether you're gonna trade it against dollar or against Solana, just be extremely careful with this level of resistance of 3.8. And I'm not saying close your long and run to the hills. I'm just saying watch out for how we close this. Look at lower time frames like 4-hour and daily to see a breakdown, which we are currently already seeing some of that. I love these massive green candles, and at these early stages, I really like the rotation of assets. It is a lot of fun, and even a rotation into Bitcoin as a short-term play could be really great. After all, it's an 80% in a week. Let me know in the comments what you think about Sui, if you think that Sui is actually going to survive this move up without a pullback and just cross that level of $4 resistance like if it was nothing, even without Bitcoin's help breaking beyond 94K. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.